Hey guys, Miskatonic here. Welcome to a new series we're going to be playing in Europa Universalis 4. I've installed a mod called the Third Odyssey, which is it's a mod that I found a few days ago just while browsing the workshop and was very impressed with. I've had a lot of fun with it. Probably the most fun I've had with the game in general in a while. It's very flavorful. Whoever did the events for this mod did a really good job, and basically the premise is that it's very improbable, and if not, it's almost certainly impossible. This could not have happened by any stretch of the imagination, but it's a fantasy mod. So basically, the Emperor of Byzantium realizes that doom is coming, and that the Ottoman Turks are going to invade and most likely kill him, take over the country. So in a last-ditch effort, he assembles a navy and grabs as many of his subjects as he can and sails to the New World and sets up a colony in America, so it's like the Byzantine refugees flee to the New World somehow, like 50 years before Columbus even left Portugal or Spain, and so it's fantasy, but it's kind of a cool idea. But what I've really enjoyed about it when I've played it is the events that happen. It really makes you feel like you're establishing a colony in a new world. There's a lot of flavor events that happen. You develop provinces and you cut trees down and all these sorts of things that kind of make you feel like you're actually founding a nation in the new world. So we're going to set this up. Let me make sure all the difficulty settings are normal. These all look normal to me. This fantasy random new world, I'm not really sure what that is implying. I think it has to do with finding the 7 cities of gold and stuff like that. Alright, so we're going to play as Byzantium. Down here, you can see like the flavor text, if you want to pause. Basically, you get the idea from reading the Odysseus, what is it called? The Aeneid, or the Odyssey. And that's where the Emperor gets the inspiration for sailing, into the unknown, basically. Alright, so welcome to the Third Odyssey. Thank you for trying it out. The notion of the mod is as follows. In alternate history, the last Emperor of Byzantium used all his means at his disposal to gather a fleet and search for new lands to settle. How he does this, what he takes along, and the decisions he makes on this journey greatly impact the later stages of the game as the player continues with a new nation. Think about your actions carefully, because what doesn't seem to do anything may have repercussions later on in the game. Seemingly easy choices may lead to a new issue to deal with. I have tried to simulate interaction with the natives and the development of a technologically and philosophically advanced, fast-growing nation as best as possible without making for boring gameplay, and I hope you will enjoy carving out your empire as more than a mere Byzantine colony, just like I enjoyed creating this experience. Closing this event will initiate the experience. Good luck and have fun. So Lich King was the mod creator. It's been taken over by someone else who's updated it for the new version of the game. So we're going to start out by deleting everything. I don't know if you have to do this anymore. The old version used to tell you to do this, I guess. But it doesn't tell you to do that anymore, so I'm still going to do it. So we just unpause and wait. Alright, Byzantine Fire. So you get these events that pop up every so often, and we'll just go through them when they come up. Court librarian came forth last night. He gathered all his documents, descriptions, and testimonies from the crew of fire ships. This way, he managed to combine all pieces of the puzzle required to recreate Greek fire and the machinery required to use it. We could take along this knowledge and have a ship prepared to carry a prototype to go along with our fleet. What do you think, my Emperor? So if we take it, we get this modifier until the end of the game. Byzantine Fire makes our light ships and galleys better, but makes them more expensive to maintain and also to build. Or we could say no, gain a little bit of money, and we also get supplies, which, you know, I don't know how the formula works out, but I think it affects like how strong your capital is when you land in the New World. And I've always taken these. I've never gone with the supplies except for in a few cases. And I'm not really sure what the optimal setup is, but I just go for the flavor. So the flavor would be, obviously, we're going to take the Byzantine Fire with us. Let's speed it up a little bit. Library of Knowledge. We should consider taking copies of our ancient knowledge with us on our travels. They would benefit us greatly and serve to preserve our knowledge and technological progress. Then again, we don't have an infinite amount of space for supplies and settlers. So we can get this modifier for the rest of the game, which 10% tech cost and idea cost reduction is huge. So yes, we'll obviously go with that. The Silk of Constantinople. Long ago, emissaries brought us gifts from faraway lands, including the means to produce silk. We have preserved and protected our monopoly on European silk production ever since. We could consider taking the secret with us and destroying what's left here. So this will give us 10% trade efficiency for the rest of the game, which I will take as well. And you'll see the downsides to taking these when we land, because there are downsides to taking them. The Genoese merchants. We should get the most out of our position while we still can. There are two proposals prepared for the Doge of Genoa. Both offer Genoese ships free passage through the Bosporus for as long as the current emperor is in power. We can either ask them for a full payment in gold or for some of their fine ships needed to secure the sea routes, of course. So this one, you can either get 120 ducats, which is a lot, or you can get the supplies for landing. And in this case, 120 ducats isn't worth giving up on like base tax back or in our new capital, so they usually go for the supplies in that case. I've never taken the other one, so I don't know if there's a side benefit to that. Venice desires the Peloponnese. We have for long known the Venetians want to expand their holdings in the Aegean. We should consider offering them control over the Peloponnese for a set time, 20 years, in return for a portion of their navy and a one-time payment. This might upset our people, and the lords of Athens would feel their position compromised on many flanks, but this deal would be well worth it. So with this one, you give up the Peloponnese as a vassal, which is the southern Greece, to Venice. To do it, though, and in return you get supplies for the journey, and 200 ducats. But the downside is you lose one stability, which is a pain. If you refuse, you gain a stability. I think it's worth it to lose a stability for this, though. So that's what I've been doing. It also makes it harder for the Ottomans to conquer it, which is, it's not really worth much, but it's something. The downside to doing this way is the nobles of Athens are worried about our decisions. They demand compensation in the form of land or gold. So we pay them off, we lose 75 ducats, and we also lose another stability, so we're down to -2. Which will carry over with us, unfortunately. Yeah, so Moria is now a vassal under Venice. Grenada demands toll. The ruler of Grenada heard of our great expedition approaching and joined up with the Moroccans to intercept and demand a toll. Their fleet is still smaller than ours, but we'd have losses in a normal fight. With Greek fire, this would be an easy fight without losses. It hasn't been seen in a long time. What should we do? Since we have taken the Byzantine fire, Basically we get out of it scot-free. Since I've always taken the fire, I don't know what happens if you don't have it. I'm assuming you have to pay the money or something. And the Portuguese strike a deal. 2 Portuguese ships sailed near today with an envoy. One of the ships and accompanying supplies and gifts can be used by us in our travels if we share our discoveries with them. They are under the impression we are headed to explore Africa. One of our advisors suggested that we use this opportunity to trick the nations of Europe, making them believe we stumbled on the end of the world and our last act was to inform them. That way it might take some generations before curiosity returns. Who knows, they could try to follow us otherwise. A good catch. So this gives us some supplies and ducats from Portugal. And it also, I believe, affects the coding of the game somehow so that the Europeans are less likely to colonize, at least for a certain period of time. I'm not sure how they do that, actually. I don't know how they modded that in, but it's pretty cool. And that should be the last event. We should be arriving in the New World now. Well, after this one. It has been many weeks of good sailing. We were smart to take far more supplies than required. Storm approaches now, and it looks like we'll get caught by whatever we do. After a long struggle, we pass through it. However, we can lose money or supplies, and definitely money is less valuable here. After surviving the Great Storm, a number of crew throughout the fleet became stricken with severe tuberculosis. Or phthisis in Greek. Despite the best efforts of our greatest physicians, Emperor Ionis the Eighth has also died. While some say that it is just an unfortunate tragedy, others say it is divine punishment for flaying Constantinople in its darkest hour. Regardless, his son Constantinos has been crowned emperor and will finish what his father started. Alright, so this gives us, well, it doesn't give us a stability, it only, it doesn't punish us like it normally would. Okay, let me pause really quick. So we have a 635, Constantinos, and our heir is a 335, so it's not bad. Yep, okay. The Pantheon worship. Okay, this is an interesting one. The storm lies a few days behind us now, leaving many at the edge of despair. A cleric asked to see you, and you invited him into your quarters. He's a very charismatic man, capable of inspiring men in the face of death, and he served us well in the armies fighting against the Ottomans. So it seems strange that he of all men would suggest such a thing, return to worshipping the old gods, the Roman and Greek gods. He says he studied our history and noticed a downward trend ever since the first emperor converted to Christianity. Which is the guy who founded Constantinople, actually. He states that despite being the servants of God, he did not help defend Jerusalem or Constantinople from the Muslims, and the recent storm can only illustrate the temper of Poseidon. If there are gods, he continued, they must be as flawed and bad-tempered as the old Greek gods. We would do best to appease them rather than speak to a god that may listen but seems not to care. So, we could become Hellenic, the old Zeus and Hera pantheon of ancient Greece, for 25 legitimacy, or gain stability and stay Orthodox Christianity. As much fun as it is to play with Hellenism, I think the bonuses are stronger for the Orthodox faith. So I'm going to do that. And there's also another benefit to it that I'll explain later. And that should be the last event. Okay, the settlement. Some of our ships went ahead and founded a preliminary camp. The main fleet will arrive to unload cargo later. All things considered, this expedition couldn't have gone much better. We're lucky to have found land with enough supplies left to last us a year. There's work to be done. The Empire of Elysia. We have finally arrived at New Kos, with no other settlements in sight. We have gained and lost ships on the way, and now is when it becomes clear what impact this has had. Every bit of knowledge and technology has cost us dearly in manpower and supplies. There is only so much we could take along. In the meantime, the Ottomans have probably invaded what was left of our home. Let us hope we made the right choices. What's done is done. Form a new nation with corresponding ideas and technology and gain base tax, troops, ships, and modifiers depending on your choices. Make sure I'm paused. Okay. With the help of our oracles, our new home, we have been able to read the signs given by the gods through flocks of birds. Even before arriving in the new lands, the gods had sent us these signs and instructed us to name our nation thus. Let us celebrate with wine and geese. It is decided. So the capital is named to New Constantinople, which I guess makes sense considering our heir is also Constantine, or our emperor is Constantine. So I guess it makes sense that he would name it after himself, just like the old one. Okay. So here's Elysia. We start with 5 troops, and we're not gonna get much more than that for a very long time. Here's Elysia, our capital. New Constantinople. It's 20 development, 767. It's a very good province. The autonomy is at 75% now, but it will drop. We have to choose a native policy. I'm going to go for the native trading policy, actually, which normally isn't as strong as the coexistence policy, but because of the Elysian ideas, this first idea makes it so it has a 100% chance to not uprise anyway as soon as you unlock it, and it also increases the assimilation rate by 100% when you have both of them together. So with that done, we don't have enough points to increase stability yet, but we will be doing that. And for our mission, we're going to take the Elysian homelands. Our nation would benefit greatly from securing a good amount of land around our capital. Doing this would form a strong, solid homeland, providing all of the resources and troops for further expansion. So in the mod, there's 6 provinces that are considered like the homeland, or the main territory of Elysia, and the early game is focused around grabbing those provinces. So that's what we're going to do. We have a merchant that we cannot use yet. Let's unpause. Alright, Forgotten Homelands. We are no longer aware of what goes on in our ancient homelands. Now oblivious to the old world, we can focus on the new world ahead of us. Will we ever return? So basically now we can't see Europe anymore. We're stuck in the America. Okay. Herald from what? That's weird. That's not right. Okay. We did lose our heir though, which is interesting. So we are a Elysian empire. It's ruled almost exclusively by its emperor. Keeps it together by sheer willpower. Ruling in a new land with little infrastructure and a lot of wilderness does not bode well to this type of government. So stability cost is much higher. We do get yearly legitimacy, and that's about it, actually. And yeah, okay, that's unpause. Eager explorers. The lands we've discovered still remain mostly unknown, but that did not stop our explorers who, without much trouble, explored the area around our capital. Great. Alright, pause. Okay, so we do have natives near us. I'm going to hope that they migrate out, actually. And I'm going to colonize Manticoke here. Let me sort of fund our troops, just enough, and try to protect our colony. And, one of the great things that the mod did is they localized all of the colonies to Greek. So Nanticoke became Alexandria, as you can see. And they did this for a lot of provinces around here. We get this modifier too, which really helps the early game out. 500 settler increase is massive. Salvaging the fleet. Upon unloading the last of the cargo from the remaining ships, our sailors realized that that our fleet had taken much more damage in the storm than we had originally thought, and it is in need of urgent repair. There is a debate occurring among the people on the usefulness of repairing the fleet at all, as it will be expensive to repair and maintain. The alternative is that we break down the ships for wood, which we can then use to help build the local infrastructure such as roads and housing, or for building a basic wooden palisade around the settlement to help protect us. So we can get a castle for free and 15 military power. We can get a ship deal for 50 years, which is not that useful. I mean, it's good, but or we can get base tax and base production in the capital, which I think I'll go for. Or we can get a navy, but yeah, definitely going to go for the base tax and production. I could focus admin. I don't think I need to. Actually, yes I do. I do need to. Let's put the speed up to 3. Some of this early game stuff takes a while to get going. As soon as you have the homeland basically complete, you also get these Byzantine events from the DLC for Byzantium, which is useful because they're really strong. And we're going to be losing money for a while, probably until our second colony finishes. And I'm just going to hope that these guys migrate. It's better to actually colonize the homeland as opposed to conquer it. Just because there's a lot of events that affect colonization. And we can take a look at some of the decisions. Alright, there he goes. They both migrated out. Reestablish the merchant class. It needs to be 1450, so 5 years. We need positive stability, which, speaking of which, we can start to work on. We need a trader. Okay. Or a marketplace in our capital. So when this happens, we get rid of a negative modifier that we have. We can take a look at those too. And we also get a coastal center of trade in Elysia, our capital, which is really, really useful. Yeah, let's take a look at our modifiers. We have eager settlers, no merchant class, so we get much less trade power, and 75% total all around. Speaking of which, we want to do this. And we're going to get barely anything, but every little bit helps. And we get a free colonist. There's a whole world out there to settle and expand into. We're not afraid to come this far and start from nothing. And why would we be afraid to do the same now? So just for existing, we get this free colonist. That's useful. Constrained resources. We're unable to move too far from our territory to expand because of the lack of roads, supply ships, and adequate organization of long-range efforts. This translates to a practical inability to supply island colonies or territories not immediately connected to us. And this will go away eventually. I'm not sure what exactly triggers it, but we also have a manpower shortage. Oh, we get maize, corn in Alexandria, so that's useful. Because we have only recently founded our settlement and have only the people we brought with us, however many they may be, we have a lack of manpower. We simply can't spare any extra settlers to occupy themselves with protecting the settlement. Even more so for our cavalry, we have a great lack of horses and will need substantial breeding to get the amounts required for army use. So this is why I like the mod, because it feels like you're a really weak brand new nation trying to settle and get started. So you have a huge penalties to everything. And we have Byzantine fire, which we did grab. And we also have a negative modifier. We chose Byzantine fire before people and supplies. Settling would be harder. So because we chose to load a ship full of Byzantine fire instead of settlers, we get this negative modifier until for 10 years, it looks like. Same with the Books of Knowledge. We got a Books Before People, which is the same thing, just on top of this. And same with Silk Before People. And the Books Before People last 20 years, this lasts 10, and the Silk lasts 30. Local natives observe ceremony. A native scouting party has observed our settlers during ceremony last night, and were terrified by the displays of smoke, the clothing, and the sincere songs. They've returned to their leaders, believing we are demons or demon worshippers, and the clan is treating us differently. So natives hate us because we're Christian. And if you do turn into a Hellenic religion, the natives will like you because it's close to, it's similar enough to their totemist religion. And instead of Doeg, I'm actually going to go for Potomac, simply because I've seen natives migrate here so frequently in the 2 test games I've run with this. And since I want to colonize everything myself in the Heartland, I want to grab the stuff that's kind of difficult early. I had a game where I had to wait 4 years without colonizing anything because I had to wait for a native to migrate out of it. Alright, so we got a new heir. Yeah, Constantinos is a good name. He's not as good as his father, but he's something. We also have a really good leader in our king, 334. I've had a better one. I guess it is randomized. It's just until we get more provinces and some of these negative modifiers wear off, declaring war is not a good idea, even against the natives, even though our troops are better than them. It's just, we'll get overwhelmed. And we're not making any money. There's a lot of reasons not to do it yet. Settlement progress is another decision we're going to aim for. Because we've only recently founded our settlement and have only the people we brought with us, however many they may be, we have a lack of manpower. We have to establish ourselves. Okay, so once these things are met, we can get rid of the manpower shortage. I see. So we need 5 cities, 1 stability, and it has to be 1,500. Or we have to build aqueducts, which is an event that can fire later on. We have now established a basic settlement. It isn't pretty or all that large, but it is our home now. We've established a basic militia for defending the town, set aside some land for farming, and cleared a local forest for wood. The overseers that run these projects are requesting more workers. However, there are not enough for all of them. Where should we send the peasants? So production in the capital is really good. We need to focus on cutting down trees. Yeah, so I'm going to go for production, and the reason is that since we grabbed the silk in the event later on, the trade good here will change into something called Elysian silk, I think, and it's ridiculously valuable. I think it's like more valuable than gold or something. It's the only province in the game that will have it, so it's kind of cool. Alright, so Alexandria is finished. Every time we finish a colony, our eager settlers decreases in half, roughly. So now we only get 250, and we will core it automatically, so I'm not going to core it. I'm not going to spend points on it. I'm going to go to Potomac next. We should get an event. Here we go. Elysian homelands. Now that we have founded our new capital, it's time to expand our influence to the lands that surround it. This would provide a buffer zone that any enemies must first pass through. We also hope to one day benefit from what may become the cultural and economic center of our empire. So we gain a quarter on it. And yeah, that's the idea, is that this is the cultural center of the future empire that will be in the New World. So this is what we're trying to work on. New World crop. As we explore Alexandria, we notice several unknown plants and crops that seem native to this world. One of the newly founded crops that we deemed to call maize, that is what it's called, so it's funny, seems to have been cultivated by the natives of the region in a most interesting way, alongside beans and squash, in a technique called the Three Sisters. We've started to make progress in not only trading for this new plant, but also adapting the natives' planting techniques as our own. So the price of corn goes up at 20% for 2 years. Okay. With the neighboring province of Alexandria settled, it is time to encourage settlers to move there. While this may weaken our capital for a short period of time, it will certainly help with development of newly acquired province. So gain 3 in each development type in Alexandria, but our capital gets 10% of 10% negative modifiers for the rest of the game, which you can get rid of later on. And this is part of our nation. Every time we colonize a province, we explore everything around it. Alright, so we found a native tribe here. Speaking of which, I'm going to fabricate claims on them, just to have our diplomats doing something. We already have a claim on Chesapeake, because this is one of the provinces of our heartland. And this colony changed to Plato's. I'm guessing it's inspired by the philosopher. Yeah, and Alexandria is already a 14 development province, so the heartland gets developed pretty quickly. And something I like about this mod is that, I mean, it's completely improbable, because if you look at, like, the English settlers that occurred, 100 years later or so, local natives bring sacrifices. Okay, so this is a good event. They give us gold, and they hate us, and we gain some inflation, but free money is great. But if you look at the native or the English settlers and how they survived, they needed shipments from England to make it. If you imagine, the mod doesn't say how many ships landed. Commander of the city guard has received numerous reports of native raids directed to the peasants who work the wheat fields outside the defenses of New Constantinople. The obvious solution is to send more men to patrol those areas. However, the guard is spread thin as it is, and this would leave the city severely undermanned. The militia are rather basic right now, made up of retired soldiers and part-time farmers, but with a little time and training they could become a significant force in their own right. Ensure the safety of the city above all else, we can gain 2 base tax. Send more guards to patrol the farmland and housing outside the city walls, gain 2 production, or 1 of each. Long term, this is probably smarter, simply because production is so useful in this province. So I'm going to do that, actually. In the short term, the base tax would have been more useful. But yeah, like, the amount of population you'd need to self-sustain, I mean, think of how long it takes to... Think of how long a generation is, and think of how it would take 100 years to to have enough generations going to self-sustain, at least in my mind. Maybe it's not as complicated, but alright, that's just nothing. But if you look at how the English settlers did it, they had supplies from England coming in. They had people coming in sporadically. They were a drain on the economy. They weren't sufficient in that sense. They weren't profitable. So you need thousands and thousands of people, and you'd have to have, I don't know, it would take a long time to establish yourself like that. The mod kind of talks about how the native tribes, this will happen later, the natives start adapting your culture, and they start, like, integrating, assimilating, and I guess that would be a source of population as well. Nobles request housing and land for farming estates. The ruling class who came with us on the fleet are requesting that we provide them with large estates befitting their status that can be used for subsistence farming and the growing of cash crops, not to mention increase their personal wealth. We could just give them the land at the usual price, which will allow them to quickly establish their farms. Alternatively, we could charge a premium for the land, which will increase our treasury, but will temporarily bankrupt the nobles. So we're going to give them the land for free. This one says they will not be able to invest in future projects, which I don't want, so I want to give them the land for free. Which still gives us space tax and production, so that's good. So our capital is already up to 27 development, and Elysia becomes strong. Like one of the games, I watched a few games on observe mode. One of the games I saw it up at like 45 development, and I think it's just due to events. I don't think the AI was developing it itself. And we got these cool little unit types here. I'm not sure what DLC this is from. Obviously, this is from God, what was it called? It was the Colonial Conquest or something like that. But I love the native sprites. They look so cool. These sprites look cool too. And there's a few other surprises in the mod as well that you'll see as they arrive. The mod is just all the flavor events are so. It's just it's just really enjoyable. Alright, Plato's is producing fur, which is decent. Maize is actually better, it would appear. Although that might be from that modifier. It looks like it is. Here we go. Visitors from the north. We've received a delegation from a previously unknown group of people to the north. They seem to be the remnants of Varangian colonies that were thought abandoned centuries ago. According to historical documents, the Varangians of old made fearsome raiders and eventually became distinguished traders in their own right, but only because raiding became impossible to accomplish with the advancement of fortifications in Europe. We, along with the natives of this new world we call Elysium, do not have access to such fortifications, so we've decided to send a delegation of our own to the north to talk with the leaders of these Varangians. Prepare a delegation. So, obviously, in this mod, the Vikings who had colonized Greenland historically, they also founded a colony called Vinland in North America, and they eventually died out in real life, but in this mod they survived. So that's also included in this mod. You can play as the Vikings up in the north. The Varangian colonies. Our diplomats have finally arrived at the northern Varangian colonies, and were quite surprised. They were expecting barbaric dwellings filled with horned, pale men, but instead they found quite the large wooden city that housed a strange mix of both pale and native men, and while one could say this city was underdeveloped by our standards, their apparent success in such terrible isolation was a marvelous sight to behold. When our diplomats were finally received by their leaders, they were given two trade propositions, one with the most northern of the colonies, called Helluland, promising a stable source of naval materials from their ongoing operations, and the other with the most southern Markland, that proposed instead a wider range of exotic ivory, furs, and oils. The northern colonies made it clear that this was a diplomatic play, and that accepting one offer would exclude the other. So you can decide to not make a trade deal with either of them. Markland gives you ship costs minus 10 and 10% trade power, or Helluland gives you production efficiency plus 10% or trade power, and trade power. So obviously production efficiency plus 10% is much stronger than ship costs, and it's just more useful in general. So we are going to go with Helluland up here. And this does give us a relationship benefit of 100. The localization is a little bugged there. But we'll start improving relations, and we could probably grab an alliance with him up here. I've seen it happen. I've seen both of them succeed in conquering each other. I don't think one of them is inherently stronger. If I was a player, I'd probably play Markland, but I think they're both very, very comparable. A modest church. Local religious leaders are saying that it is time for us to build a church dedicated to God. As we are currently limited in resources, we can only build a basic church using wood and stone. The Emperor's advisors reminded him that if he paid for it out of his own treasury, he would have increased control over where the temple's tax income is invested. So we can pay 75 ducats for a church in the capital. We can lose prestige for the church, or just gain a base tax. I'm gonna pay for it. Obviously, this option's better, but it says that if we pay for it, we'll get increased control. So I don't know if that's actually true, but I'm gonna hope it is. This should put us in the green. Maybe not yet. Not yet. No, it does. Okay. Yeah, now we're making 0.2 ducats a month, though, so we're no longer losing money. I will go with the stability here. No, not yet. Boost it up once, and then we'll go for the free stability. It's very useful. Still not 1450. There is no trader available, unfortunately. And marketplaces aren't until next tech, which will be a while. Yeah, all of the estates are different too, which is something I really liked. This whole mod is just really, really cool. I would like a trader though. It's not necessary now, but in a year it will be. I don't know if I want to fire them though. How much money do I need? I need 13.8 ducats for this. Let me fire you. I will take a loan for it, because doing this will give us a lot more money. Just getting a center of trade in general, and also getting our trade power fixed will help us a lot. Nope. That's not a trader. We can fire one more guy. I think we'll fire one of the older ones. It's a little bit cheaper. I don't know of any other way to get a trader offhand. Ah, damn. Alright, we're gonna have to hope that we can find some money somewhere. Hopefully from the natives. Anyway, I think I'm going to call the episode here. It's been probably way too long. This has been Miskatonic, and thanks for watching. When we come back, we'll try to finish reclaiming the heartland of Elysia, and then from there, we'll try to dominate. This has been Miskatonic. Thanks for watching.